Hey, today we're going to take a look at the type of estimate that your company is probably going to deliver to you for managing your project, and then we're going to compare that to what I consider a well-formatted estimate. Hi, my name's Dennis, and if you haven't been here before, welcome to my channel. Where we're going to talk about the skills you need to promote or to be a better foreman. And if you have been here before, thanks for coming back. Okay, so this is a copy of a estimate. This is what I would expect you to see if you asked for a copy from your company. I'm going to go ahead and scroll in on this just a little bit. In case you're on a cell phone, you'll be able to see what it says, and we'll go over a couple of the lines. So this is just the first page of this particular estimate, and it's an estimate for a sample project that I use for demonstrations. But if you look at the top there, you can see the first thing listed is half-inch EMT. It's 6,490 feet. Tells you the cost per 100 feet. C at the end there tells you that it's per 100, so it's $21.66 per 100 feet. That's probably not accurate anymore. We've had a lot of inflation in the last few months, so that database pricing hasn't been updated for that. It'll give you the extended price, which is the next column, and then it tells you the labor hours per 100 feet to install it. So for the half-inch EMT, it's 2.5 hours per 100 feet. And then it gives you your extended labor for all of your EMT conduit, which is 162.25 hours. Now, if we went down a little ways, we could find the half-inch EMT set screw connectors. There's 462 of those, and there's 23.1 hours of labor in all of the half-inch set screw EMT connectors for the project. So that'd have to be added in if you were going to be tracking someone running half-inch conduit, right, along with the couplings and the supports. So this does give us some information, and if we group it correctly, we can use it to a point for scheduling our project. However, half-inch EMT is kind of a large category in this estimate. I'd like to see it broke down a little bit more, maybe by room or by circuit, so that I could track things as they're evolving and catch any problems before all of the half-inch EMT is installed, if you know what I mean. So, I like to monitor that as the job unfolds, and the way I do it is just by issuing tasks and then having them record their time against it. If I see time being entered that is excessive, then I know I have some type of a problem. I can walk in there, find out what's going on. Someone's struggling with running some EMT perhaps, or it could just be a site-specific condition, maybe something that they're having to maneuver around that's kind of difficult. But at least find out what the problem is, and if I can get it resolved to minimize those losses, right? We want to be able to react fast in order to fix things before all the numbers come in and it's too late to do anything about it. So the other valuable information in this estimate comes at the end. It gives you the total hours for the entire project. And let me throw that sheet up real quick. Okay, so if we go all the way to the bottom of the last sheet of this copy of the estimate, you can see the total hours there. There's 1,434.83 hours. Now, the reason that that is important to us is if we choose to make our own takeoff, probably that takeoff isn't going to match their hours exactly, but we can adjust our estimate by percentages until the two numbers line up, and now they're going to be even Steven. So we want to manage our project to the hours that the company estimated. So I just wanted to point that out to you. It's important to know how many hours your company projected for the entire project, because if you do end up making your own estimate, you want to make sure that you adjust it until you have the same hours that they do or very close, okay? Now, there are several ways to estimate, and we're going to cover some of those in a future video. The two most popular are spreadsheet estimating, where a company creates their own kind of estimating system through a spreadsheet. And the other most popular type is commercial estimating software. And if your company happens to use commercial estimating software, they should be able to give you a copy of an estimate that looks like this. So the difference here is that the estimating software will automatically break your estimate down by phase of construction. And depending on the software, that'll vary a little bit, but let's just say, for example, underground conduit, above ground conduit, switchgear, lighting, devices and trim, things like that. Okay, so that's how this particular copy of this estimate is broken down. I'm going to go ahead and scroll in on it now, and we'll take a look at the first phase of construction. So you can see the first phase of construction is actually underground feeder conduit, and it lists all the material for that portion of the work. And at the bottom, you can see that there are 176.08 hours allotted for that portion of the work. Now, that would actually be a pretty good task that you could assign to a crew of workers and then track, okay? So from that respect, this works pretty well. You can see the next phase of construction is your underground branch conduit. But let's go down to above ground branch conduit and take a look at that for just a sec. Now, it actually starts right here on page 2 of our estimate and then scrolls over to page 3. But what I wanted you to see is this number right down here, 489.03 hours. Okay, so this phase of construction is really too large for our purposes, because we're painting ourselves back into the same corner where we're not going to be able to control these numbers until they're completely done, and by then that whole phase of construction could be out of whack. We don't know, okay? So that needs to be more granular. Now, from here, we're going to take a look at what I consider a perfect world. It's going to be a task integrated estimate. In other words, when it was taken off, the person who took it off, which was me in this case, had in mind what task they wanted to assign, so they broke the estimate up by those tasks so they'd be ready for scheduling and tracking. And so let me throw up a task integrated estimate, and let's take a look at that real quick. This is that same takeoff broken down by phase of construction, but it's also broken down by task. You can see the first task is the future oven. So that is all of the conduit, supports, connectors, boxes to install that entire raceway system for that future oven. Next one down the line is the dryer. So all of the material for that raceway system, and then receptacle circuit A17 and 19. Now, the thing you have to understand is the larger your project, the less granular you want things, typically, okay? This is for a commercial project. This is actually some plans I purchased from an engineer for a private school, and just kind of did a mock-up project of it. But there is a lot of different ways to slice up your estimate. This is pretty granular, but I wanted you to see how detailed you could be. So if I wanted to assign these conduit installations to a certain crew member, I know exactly how long they should take for each one. And I can keep my eye on them better now and see if they're keeping up. By the time they get through one day, because most of these are a couple hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours each, by the end of a day, I can take a look and see where they're at on their schedule. If they're struggling and having some trouble, I'm going to know about it right away the day it happens. And I'm going to be able to get in there and help them figure that out, whatever issue they're having. Sometimes you can't solve the problem. If it's a site-specific condition that wasn't able to be predicted in the estimating phase, you're screwed, okay? You can still look at it and see if you can minimize losses, though. And for the majority of your tasks, they should easily be able to keep up with them. So it just gives you the ability to see at a daily level how each crew member's performing and if you're meeting your production goals without having to sit there and time them with a watch and see if they're getting, 100 feet of conduit installed in 4 hours or whatever. You can tell task by task exactly what's happening. So next I'd like to show you, because I talked about vetting your estimate. Now, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect, although you might be closer than me, maybe. Nobody's perfect, so it's always a good idea to run these things by other members of your team, okay? Because they'll have a different eye than you, and they may notice some things that you missed in there. Now, if you miss a piece of material, you have to install it for free. There's no time in the estimate now, okay? So it's very important that you include every piece of material that you possibly can. I mean, you can't see what struggles you're going to have out there as the project unfolds. You can't make those predictions, all of them, okay? So in certain circumstances, there may be some material missing because of problems you encounter on the site that you couldn't foresee. But for the most part, you need to get every piece of material in there, because every piece of material you miss, you cheat that crew member out of time for the installation, okay? And the best way to do that is to run it through more than one person. I forget things, I miss things, everybody does. But if you run it through your team and you get 4 sets of eyes on it, probably you're going to catch just about everything. And if you run it through 4 sets of eyes and you miss something, everybody's to blame, right? No one can say, well, that dummy, he forgot this piece of material. They can say, us dummies, we forgot that piece of material. So what I'm saying is it makes it easier for everybody to buy into your takeoff if they have a chance to take a look at it and, put their 2 cents in, right? So let's take a look at how that might work. Okay, Now, I apologize, the audio may sound a little different. I'm running it through a different speaker, but bear with me. So, the best way to do this would be to go into your boardroom, throw out a set of drawings with your team, hand each person a copy of the estimate so that they could follow along. And we'll do this basically circuit by circuit. This is the site plan for this particular private school. And you can see up here is the primary conduit coming into the utility transformer, which is here. And then the secondaries go into the building. And this would be your telephone and cable TV. This conduit here is a flow and tamper out to the street for the fire alarm system. And then, of course, you have some site lighting, some parking lot lighting here and over here. So what I would do is throw these drawings out and hand everybody a copy of the estimate. If you can't do that, you can easily do this online via Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, whatever your company has to work with. Just email everybody a copy of the estimate and then pull the drawings up on your screen, and you're going to go through it page by page. For example, we could go through the primary conduit up here, all the material that's included in that. Everybody could look at it. You could have a discussion on what's best to do, how to do that, and if these materials are correct or not. Once you've vetted the primary conduit, you could move on to the secondary conduit, and then the cable TV, and then the telephone. And I'm sure there are probably some things I missed in here myself, but common trench, right? And then you'd go on to the fire alarm, the flow and tamper, and the parking lot lighting. And you'd go through each task, the material for each task separately, and just get everybody's input and their ideas. If someone wants to change some material, you can make notes of that. Then you can go back into your estimating system and make those changes for them. Some people may have suggestions on alternate material based on cost or installation, the ease of installation to save time, labor, or just something that you missed they may pick up on. Or maybe they just have a preference for different material, but you can massage each one of those. Now, give me a second and I'll pull up the above ground branch again, because I want to show you something there before we continue on. Okay, these are the same tasks we looked at before: the oven, the dryer, the receptacle circuit. But what you can see here is that these are redundant tasks. And the point I want to make to you is we don't have to go through every single one of these tasks right here. Basically, what we're trying to do is flavor our material. And typically, you can just go through one task of a group of typical tasks and vet that out, and then just make the same changes to all of the others. And that's easy to do in estimating software, because you can, select material and you can put an alternate material in its place if you want to. So my point is, this process can go very quickly. Just select one task out of each group of tasks, vet it out, note any changes you need to make in the material, and then move on to the next one. The whole thing for this project would probably take I don't know, 30 minutes or so. If everybody has a lot of discussion and bantering back and forth, it might roll to an hour. But it's not a real time-consuming process, but at least everybody gets to look at the material and give their input on it. And as a group, you get to agree on how you're going to approach this certain project. And once that discussion's over, some people may feel like they didn't get their way, but overall, everyone should agree that what you're putting forward is the best plan and material list for tackling your project. Okay, so now I'd like to ask you, if this information was clear to you, would you please just leave me a comment down below and let me know if you understood what we went over here in this video today. It'd be real helpful to me. And if you had any questions about what we went over or anything else, you're welcome to drop those questions down below as well. We're going to go on now to how to create an estimate. So I'll be showing you in my next video, start teaching you those skills and what you need to know to be able to put your own estimate together. We'll look at some different methods for making that happen. And so make sure that if you're not subscribed, you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you'll know when I put that next video out. And also likes and shares are much appreciated. If you got any benefit out of this, just helps me get better distribution so that I can capture a wider audience and help more people. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you for showing up.